Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to give folks just a few more seconds as they are entering the webinar coming in from the waiting room. Thanks for being here today. Okay. So I think this is our first chunk. So hi everybody, good afternoon. We're gonna jump right into it just because we have a lot to cover and we want to make sure that we have some time at the end for questions. So we're just gonna do introductions. My name is Liz Valladares. I'm the Urban Waters Ambassador for the Lower Passaic River Urban Waters Federal Partnership. We're very excited to talk a little bit today about this artist in residence opportunity. And also just a quick heads up, this meeting is being recorded so that we can share it with folks. And as soon as it's available, we will share it with everybody that registered to join us today, but maybe couldn't. So I am joined here today by folks from the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary program, including Rob Pirani and Christina Carrero, and then our local arts partners, Lauren Craig with Newark Arts and Marcy DePina with New York City Parks Foundation. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Please be patient with us as we move through this thorough PowerPoint. So to just give you an idea about today's goals, we are going to be covering some of the basics about this call for artists. I think most of you, if not all of you, have already seen our call for artists. If you haven't, please go on hudsonriver.org. That's where you will go ahead and see that PDF available that goes into a lot more details than what we'll cover today. But the goal really today was to be able to kind of like dig a little bit more into that, provide you with some just further feedback and just more information in terms of what our expectations are for the program, be able to kind of break this down a little bit for you. What do we mean when we say the Urban Waters Partnership, and what do we mean when we're talking about the Lower Passaic River? And then also, I think most important, since we are working with a bit of a new system, I did want to just take some moment to kind of just provide an overview of what are some of the things that you will see if you are interested in submitting that letter of interest. So that's what we'll go ahead and do today. And then, of course, we also have some time at the end for questions if you want to be able to, ask something that maybe wasn't covered through the presentation. So moving along, I'm going to go ahead and let Rob Pirani just talk a little bit about the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Program, also known as HEP. And then Rob, when you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Liz, and thank you all for joining us here today, and in particular to our partners in Newark City Arts and Newark Parks. This is a big partnership that's putting together this program. For our part, Liz, Christina, and I all work for the Hudson River Foundation. We are privileged to host two collaborations for EPA. The New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Program and the Lower Passaic Urban Waters Federal Partnership. We were selected by EPA to host the Artist in Residence program, and it was really seen by EPA and the Council on the Arts as an innovative way of helping people engage in waterways around the nation. HAP and Lower Passaic Urban Waters Federal Partnership work similarly in that we work with partners in a collaborative way to engage people in their waterways. In the case of HAP, it's for the whole Hudson River watershed, including the Lower Passaic, and obviously the Lower Passaic zooms in and deals with that area in New Jersey. So with that, let me turn it back over to Liz and just thank you all again for participating.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, like I mentioned earlier, we also have some amazing experts who are going to be joining us as part of this program committee, which include Marcy, who I just noticed she might be switching from her phone over to her computer. So why don't we switch and have Lauren actually go ahead and introduce herself first and just provide a little bit more info on Newark Arts.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lauren LeBeau Craig. I'm the Executive Director for Newark Arts. Super excited to be a part of this awesome artist in residency program that's not only so beneficial to the community, but will really support an artist for this year-long residency and bringing their dreams to life. So this is super exciting. Newark Arts is really happy to be a part of something like this because, as you all know, Newark is for artists, yes. And we have a bunch of signature programs that we do as the Arts Council for the largest city in New Jersey, which includes Art Source, creative placemaking, Art Start mini grants, the Newark Arts Festival, which happens in October every year, the Newark Creates Cultural Plan, which we did for the city. We're also the fiscal sponsor for Arts at Newark. And we provide creative convenings, which is a professional development series for artists. And we also provide regranting, needs-based regranting. So to find out more about Newark Arts, visit newarkarts.org and make sure to follow us at Newark Arts.
Thanks, Lauren. Marcy, you want to say a quick hello and introduction of New York City
Sure.
Parks Foundation?
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for joining and for your interest in this program. We're really excited. As Liz said, my name is Marcy DePina. I'm the Executive Director for New York City Parks Foundation. We are a nonprofit organization based in the city that manages and maintains 5 of our downtown parks, including Riverfront Park, which is the park of focus for this program. One of the things that we're really excited about this year is expanding the idea of public space for the promotion and enjoyment of public art. So that is quickly becoming part of the organization, which has only been around since 2021. So we're really expanding on that theme and bringing art to all of the 5 downtown parks. Specifically, I just want to mention that Riverfront Park, since its inception, has always incorporated public art as a way to not only tell the story of the Passaic River and all of the abuse that has taken place, but also the stories of triumph and of success on the behalf of the community and organizations like the 2 that are represented here. And bringing awareness to the environmental challenges that we have along the river. So it's always been a part of Riverfront Park's mission, and this program is simply an expansion on that idea. So we're very excited to be working with HEP and with the Urban Waters Partnership Program, and of course, Newark Arts on this project. Thank you.
We're so excited to be working with you both. Jumping into a little bit more about the program overview, and I'm not going to dig a little bit too much into this just because I know that Rob touched on a lot of these points earlier. But again, this Lower Passaic River artist residency is possible because of a partnership between EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the NEA, the National Endowment of the Arts. So we were one of 6 Urban Waters locations selected as part of this pilot. It is a new initiative. And so I'm happy to say that, HEP is lucky in that it has 2 Urban Waters locations under its program. So ours, the Lower Passaic River, and then the Bronx and Harlem rivers. And, they're also doing exciting work over there. They just closed their LOIs as of recently. And so the goal for us is to be able to have an artist selected around the same time as theirs, so that those 2 artists could, soak in all the wonderful stuff about our region and just be able to learn together, and also connect with the other 4 locations as well. That's actually one of the expectations as well. But again, the goal of this, really, the pilot, is really to be able to create something that engages the community, and then also, again, incorporates a lot of those important environmental stewardship messages around, the importance of water quality, climate change, and overall just environmental stewardship, and bringing awareness about those challenges. So I'm not going to dig into this like word for word. Again, please refer to the call for artists for all of these, specific objectives. But to break this down into, shorter messages, our objectives for the program are to highlight the Lower Passaic River's ecology, water quality, historical uses, and climate change impacts. We want to emphasize the importance of environmental justice. So like Marcy said, our communities have been, drastically affected by a lot of different things, including climate change and just abuse of the river and the degradation that's happened, especially during the industrial phases of the river. And so we want to be able to highlight all of the wonderful work being done by our partners that are doing that great work on the ground. So environmental justice and community engagement is so important for us. We want to be able to showcase parks and projects improving access to the river. So again, we want to be able to connect, our communities to this wonderful resource that's in their backyard. We want them to be able to know that it's there, that they can enjoy it, and that it's theirs just as much as, anyone else on the river. And we want to be able to highlight, the importance of working with youth. We know that, we want them to be able to have a say in the decisions that are taking place in their community, and have a role again in what happens with the river in the future. And then lastly, we want to be able to, some of the objectives for this program are to be able to work together. We want to definitely build on each other's efforts, and we want to demonstrate how powerful it is when we come together as agencies, as community partners, as nonprofits, stakeholders overall, to really do a lot of that shared work. We think there's definitely power in collaboration. So, in summary, those are the major objectives as part of our program. And going a little bit more into the expected timeline, again, a reminder that this is a 13-month residency. And once the artist is selected, which we hope, and then we'll go into the timeline too in detail, but to kind of just give you an overview, when we hope to have an artist selected is, mid-March, and the goal would be to have that artist start an immersive phase right away, where they will be able to learn about, our shared work, as well as, the background about the Passaic River. How are the communities interacting with the river now? Who are the partners that are doing a lot of that great work? That's really going to be, the phase where they get to learn about, what's happening and all the great work that's being done. And then, they're going to have the chance to be able to conceptualize, their vision and, for what they would like to do as a project. And, one thing that we ask is that, again, it relates to water quality, it relates to climate change, it relates to a lot of not just the challenges, but also the things worth celebrating, right, in terms of our location, and to be able to highlight, what makes our location wonderful. And one document in particular that we think, kind of lays out the groundwork for a lot of the work that's happening, and, the future that we want for the river and our communities. It's our action agenda, which is essentially a blueprint for a lot of those actions that we think will help us get there. So again, all of this is referenced in the call for artists, so please be able to check out all of those links that were provided. And then lastly, again, I mentioned this as a pilot. So one goal is to be able to take a look at this like later by being able to look at it, all of the ways that this project has been documented, whether it's been pictures, whether it's been videos, whether it's flyers, and then say, this is something that really worked well for us. And we want to be able to take that and inform potential future programs as well down the line. So in brief, that's sort of, the timeline of the 13-month residency that you can expect. Digging a little bit more into the roles and responsibilities, again, as the Urban Waters ambassador, the selected artist will definitely connect with me with our partnership with the HEP as well, again, since we fall under that HEP umbrella. And one of the ways that we want to be able to support you is by being with you administering the grant. We'll be able to, again, the call for artists is out there. We'll be the ones reviewing your letters of interest. We'll be working with you if you have any questions. And then once selected, I mentioned that immersion phase, we'll be the ones connecting you to a lot of the folks that are doing a lot of that great work, so that you have a better understanding of the Lower Passaic if you're not already familiar with that background. And so we want to be able to kind of like help make those connections as much as we can. And then once, the artist is ready to have that work plan looked at and ready for review by our project committee, we'll be able to also work with you and advise you on a timeline and a budget and a work plan that makes sense. And again, be able to help, flesh things out, especially if you have any questions about certain things. And then lastly, as mentioned in the call for artists, there are a couple initiatives that we like to take on every year. The City of Water Days, one, for example, that we make a note of in the call for artists, as well as paddling programs that take place in the fall. in the Lower Passaic. So those are annual programs that are, very dear to us and that, we work really hard in. And so just know that we will also be there to be able to support the selected artists, do something on that day, whatever it ends up being, that's definitely your vision as well. But just know that you can also count on us to be able to support you for those programs and your participation in those programs. And then in terms of the roles of our wonderful partners who are here today, and mention again, they are the experts in this wonderful field. So they will be helping us review your letters of interest when submitted. They will also be able to be there for you in terms of providing potential contacts and engagement opportunities. They obviously have the polls and all the things arts happening locally. So, it will be great to have them as sort of like your guides to get in contact with all of those engagement opportunities and events. And then once again, the artist is ready to have their work plan proposed. They'll also be able to advise you in terms of, what's a budget that makes sense, what's a timeline that makes sense. If you're looking at a particular site or a particular part, these are the experts who will be able to provide you with a little bit more information about whether something's doable or whether something needs to be fleshed out a little bit more. So we're happy to be partnering with both of these wonderful organizations. And then in terms of the artist, we are looking for an artist who can, these are some of the responsibilities and some of the expectations that we are hoping to get from you when selected. You're going to be attending meetings, again, part of that immersion of learning about the Lower Passaic. We were going to ask you to sit in on different events and different meetings. And so we want to make sure that you're able to attend all of those and be able to soak all of that work in. You're also going to be interacting with other artists. I mentioned that, there's going to be another artist selection happening soon for the Harlem River. And so, but that won't be the one other artist you'll be interacting with. There are actually, again, another 4 as part of those other locations. Again, once you've been able to have that first phase, we're going to ask you to develop a work plan that explains your vision for, how you're going to do a lot of that work that engages the community and then at the same time incorporates all of these really important environmental, aspects into it. And then, of course, after the plan has been approved by our committee and we've been able to say, this works, this is great, this is doable, the artist will also be responsible for making sure that, the plan actually gets implemented and gets put into action by looking into the permits that are required and, what kind of programming is necessary to happen beforehand, before that project takes place. And then again, we want to be able to, it's a 13-month residency, so we want to make sure that we're able to stay on top of everything that's happening. And also, once this is done, we want to be able to take a look back at it and say, this worked really well. So, and that can only happen if we're able to document the process, of the events, of the conversations, of everything that's taking place. So we also expect the artists to be able to help us keep track of all of those wonderful things taking place throughout the 13 months of our program. Okay, and then jumping into eligibility, and this is what I mean when we say the Lower Passaic. I'll jump into a little bit more about, how we're defining the Lower Passaic in a little bit. But when it comes to brass tacks, we are looking for artists who live and have a connection with these communities. Includes the communities of Patterson, Prospect Park, Hawthorne, Fairlawn, Emerald Park, Passaic, Garfield, Wallington, Rutherford, Clifton, Nutley, Lyndhurst, Belleville, North Arlington, Kearney, Harrison, Newark, and East Newark. Or if you don't currently live within these towns, we ask you to please demonstrate, what's that meaningful connection to either these communities, to the river. We want to be able to just learn a little bit more. But the goal behind this really, it's because we want to be able to highlight and uplift the work of an artist that's from here. We know that there are wonderful artists everywhere, but we really want to work with somebody, who is from the community. We want to be able to uplift a lot of those voices that aren't really, heard a lot of the time. So this is why we want to make sure that we put this up front, and that you are aware about this connection that we're seeking, again, or at least be able to demonstrate what's that meaningful connection? If you're not from part of these towns or, you know, from this section of the river, but you do have a meaningful connection, we still want to hear from you, and we want to be able to know what that connection is. We also are looking for an artist that has some experience with community engagement and collaboration. All of our work has to do with working with other partners and working with our community. So we want to make sure that an artist, you know, who comes on board is also open to being able to engage with the community and our partners, and be able to be willing to do so, you know, and is excited about it. We also, want to note that, like I mentioned before, because you will be interacting with other artists from other locations, we do expect you to also attend potential events. You know, I think there will be at least one for sure that's going to be happening in DC when all the artists are selected, and have, you know, come on board. So just know that there, you know, is travel expected, and we will cover travel, and, you know, we will also go into it in a little bit. But just note that we are also asking for you to be able to participate as part of that. So you must be eligible to do those events. We want somebody that's going to be able to meet with us regularly with the project team. We want to be able to hear your ideas. We want to be able to, you know, keep note on the progress that's being done, especially when you're working on the ground. You must be eligible to work in the US for the 13 months of the program. And, you know, something that we ask, but it's important, and you know, I think that we're definitely open to sort of like hearing what your interpretation is about a lot of these issues. But the ideal candidates would definitely have some sort of interest or even experience, right, in environmental issues and in science, and in how maybe like they've taken some of these challenges and also have done something wonderful that educates our community members in learning a little bit more about it and becoming more aware about those challenges as well. Any art medium is accepted, so we are not putting a, you know, a category in terms of what we're looking for. We're really open to any type of art, any type of artist. So please just know that. And then again, given of you know, our location, being bilingual is a plus, in particular if you know Spanish, just given so many of our communities you know, communicate in the Spanish language, and knowledge of Spanish is definitely a plus for us. Okay. And then in terms of the budget, which again, I'm sure many of you have seen, the total budget for the program is $80,000 for the 13-month residency, with $5,000 of that being put away to help support community events. So I mentioned earlier, you know, we have two big events that we'd like to host and work hard at every year. One of them is City of Water Day, and the other being the paddling programs that take place out of Newark Riverfront Park, for example, which Marcy mentioned earlier. You know, we have put aside $5,000 of that to be able to host something on those days. Some money has been put away again for your travel, in particular to that DC meeting, which will be taking place. And then in terms of the, you know, the costs of the artist fee, as well as the materials that it takes for your project, as well as just producing, you know, whatever you're proposing to do, the budget for that is $72,000. And again, that includes materials, travel, costs for local engagement. You know, if you want to show up to a partners meeting, a partner festival, be able to like use it for materials to be able to showcase your work, you know, all of that is eligible as part of that, including the artist fee. Okay, and then just a little bit again on our project location. So what do we mean when we say the Lower Passaic? Again, many of you may already be familiar with the Passaic River. It's a long river. It starts its journey in Mendham, New Jersey. It's about 80 miles long. However, you know, we like to emphasize Lower Passaic River because it's a different segment of the river for sure. You know, and just as a bit of a overview, you know, I've included two pictures here that can kind of give you a little bit more insight as to like why we like to focus on the towns just mentioned and why we like to focus on this segment of the river. You know, the top picture is super pristine, super open, very, you know, nice and ideal. While the last picture, as you can see, it's definitely more, you know, channeled. You can't really like see that there's like a lot of access and a lot of opportunities to be able to enjoy the river with recreation opportunities and such. You know, when we say the lower Passaic, you know, EPA has its own definition, but we'd like to be able to extend just a little bit further up north, which is why we included a lot of those towns like the city of Passaic and Patterson, for example, and Hawthorne, for example. But our goal as the Lower Passaic River Urban Waters Federal Partnership is, again, to be able to take these towns that have been disconnected from the river for so long and be able to you know, help advance on the ground work, whether it's cleanups, whether it's fishing, whether it's kayaking, and be able to connect a lot of our community members with those opportunities and promote sustainable development along the banks of the river. So that's what we mean when we say, you know, Lower Passaic and our lower project and our project location as part of this program. And then just a couple of more, you know, sites that can sort of, you know, provide a bit of an overview in terms of, you know, what makes up our wonderful location. We have the Great Falls in Patterson, we have the Dundee Dam in Clifton, which is actually sort of, you know, what makes that cutoff in terms of EPA's definition for the Lower Passaic. It starts at the Dundee Dam and it flows all the way down to Newark Bay. And again, another significant part of our location is you know, the Port of Newark, which is, you know, such a significant partner in a lot of the work that we do as well. And then to kind of just like jump a little bit into more about the Lower Passaic, again, I mentioned that the Lower Passaic River Urban Waters Federal Partnership is a collaborative that works to do a lot of this underground work. So we try to, you know, address issues like combined sewer overflows, a lot of, you know, litter reduction, a lot of like issues that have to do with uh you know, hazardous contamination and waste. So a lot of the work that we try to do, again, focuses on trying to tackle these challenges and being able to support progress towards addressing these. So some examples are, for example, when I say, you know, when we say water quality, some of the ways we've been able to do that is by partnering with a couple of partners like USGS, for example, to be able to track down sources of pathogens that are entering the Lower Passaic. We've also worked with Patterson Great Falls National Historic Park to look into, you know, historical data quality and sort of tell us, right, like what's happening for the park and how can we make recommendations so that its resources are protected. And then again, I mentioned, you know, we try to create more opportunities for people to recreate on the water. So we host City of Water Day, which basically allows folks to come and enjoy the river for free, by fishing, by paddling, you know, by doing a lot of like different events that get them out there and get to enjoy that wonderful resource. And then we do, you know, we're trying to also, some of the projects coming up for us this year is we are trying to work with the city of, we're currently working with the city of Kearney to be able to come up with a redesign for their shoreline and to see, you know, what are some potential ways that that shoreline could be redesigned to incorporate, you know, things that take into account climate change and stormwater and things like that. And then we are also partnering with Trust for Public Land, who we are working on sort of trying to capture what are all the potential open spaces that we can help advance if they don't already, you know, belong to the town, for example. How can we sort of like allow for those spaces to become a reality and closer to becoming parks and, you know, and things that will give people access to enjoy their open space. Okay, and then I'm gonna go over this briefly as well. We're almost coming down to the last 10 minutes before we open things up for questions. Again, so the letters of interest are due January 31st, and we are going to be asking you to, in addition to the letter of interest, submit your CV and a resume, as well as examples of your work. All of these, again, specific requirements as part of that are going to be found on our webpage. So again, if you don't have that call for artists handy, just go on hudsonriver.org and you'll be able to see it on the first page. The link that takes you to our artist in residence webpage. But there'll be more instructions there on how to submit your letter of interest, as well as those deadlines coming up. And in terms of the LOI content, we really want you to focus on why you should be selected. We want to be able, this is your opportunity to tell us, who you are. We want to be able to learn from you. But most importantly, we want to be able to, again, learn about what your connection is to the Lower Passaic. Be able to tell us, if this is your home, we want to definitely hear it. If this was your home at some point, we also want to be able to hear it. We definitely want to be able to know if you've had previous experiences working with, some of the partners that we've worked with, or, new partners that we're also interested in, bringing onto our network. We want to be able to know what those connections are, especially how they relate to the environment and environmental justice and climate resilience. So more on specifics, your resume, we don't want it to be longer than 3 pages, and your work samples, you will have 10 opportunities to submit 10 different types of examples. I'll go into a little bit just of exactly how to do that, but feel free to include things like images, videos, voice notes. Pretty much every type of file format will be available for you to upload. We just want to make sure that you're describing them, and we want to know what we're going to be looking at as you submit those work samples. And again, the more that they connect to your experience with you as an artist, and again, your connection to the Passaic, we definitely want to be able to see that. And then just a quick note, we are not looking for project proposals at this moment. We are only looking for your letter of interest. So we want to be conscious that, your time is valuable. So at this point, again, we just want your resume or CV, and we want this letter of interest addressing these 3 main points, which are in bullet form right here. Okay, so this is the bit that I definitely wanted to kind of just go over with everyone again, because it is a new system and I want to make sure everyone's a little bit comfortable with using it. All of this is included in the call for artists, but I'll make sure that once the recording is available, I circle around those links again so that they're available for you. The first step is really to make an account with our software that's going to be helping us review these proposals. So use the link provided again in the call for artists and in the instructions on how to submit an LOI. Once you sign up and create an account, you will receive a confirmation number, be able to do that to finish creating your account. And once you're in, you will essentially see this box right here, which takes you to the homepage. Now, if you go to the professional file tab, you're going to have 2 opportunities to add your institution. Now, we are aware that, some of you are freelance artists, are independent artists, and so we want to be able to walk you through how to do that. If you do have an institution, I've used, our organization here as an example. Within that institution name box, write the name of your organization, hit display results, and then your organization should pop up. For example, you see here that the Hudson River Foundation has popped up in the list of results. You're going to go ahead and select this dot right here, and then you're going to hit select. And then that will take you to the page where you can continue to add more information. You're going to see a lot of boxes on this page. The only things that we are requesting is for you to add an address and a phone number. Everything else is optional. Feel free to fill it in as detailed as you want it to be. But we are only really asking for those 2 fields to be filled in, the address and the phone number. And this is important because this will make the 4th step in your LOI submission a little bit easier. So this will auto-populate that tab a little bit later. Now, if you are not affiliated with an organization, that is 100% okay. What we want you to do is to be able to put no institution available in that same box where it says institution name. Do the same thing, hit display results. And then the first selection that you're going to make is, that first result in that list, which has no institution available. You're going to hit select. And then that will take you to that same page that we saw earlier. Now, this is the chance where you're going to be able to, provide a little bit more details. If you want to say that you're an independent artist, feel free to do that. If maybe you are working with an organization, but maybe it's not like a registered organization, it's not like an established organization, that wouldn't have necessarily come up in that list, in that search result, feel free to also write them down. You can write that as well here in this field. But then again, the only two things that we're asking for is the phone number and the address. So even if you're a freelance artist, if you're an independent artist, again, make sure that you note that on this field, but then also provide us with an address and a phone number below. Those are the only two things that we need. And so once you're done editing your profile, that was the hardest part. This is definitely much easier. It gets easier from here, I promise. What you'll do is you'll go to that grant opportunities tab. You'll write in artist in residence program, Lower Passaic River, and you're going to hit search. And then once you do that, this is going to come up, the bottom box right here, Artist in Residence Program, Lower Passaic River. And you're just going to click Apply Now. Once you're in, this is where you'll be able to submit your letter of interest. So you're going to see something very similar to this. Actually, you'll see this exact box. It's going to ask you for a title page. Just know that you don't have to commit to a title right then and there. You can edit that field as much as you like up until the deadline submission. So if you kind of just want to work out a real quick sentence for your project, just know that you can always go back and edit it afterwards, but you are going to have to click save to move on to the other fields. So section 2 is going to be just a section where you can download the full call for artists again, in case you want to have it open to reference it as you're writing your letter and things, and where you'll also be able to download the instructions on how to submit. The third section will allow you to grant permission to other folks. If you want them to work on the application with you, you will be able to add their emails and their names. And then step 4, which is like your personal information. Again, because you already worked on your profile earlier, this is just going to be auto-populated for you. So again, I used the example that I wasn't affiliated with an organization. So as you can see, it just says no institution selected, but I did add the address and the phone number, and then the email will just auto-populate. So again, this will be auto-populated as long as you filled in that profile earlier. And even if you don't, you would still be able to do this at a later time. I just find that it's way easier to do that right off the bat as soon as you create your account. And then section 5 goes into the attachments. Again, so this is where you're going to be able to upload your letter of interest addressing those 3 important points, your resume, 3 pages max, and where you'll be able to submit a total of up to 10 work samples. So you'll be able to click the drop down arrow right here and choose between what it is you want to upload. If you're uploading your work samples, we ask that you please use this field right here, which says it's a 250 character limit to describe what we're looking at. Let's say if you want to upload the link to a YouTube video, make sure that you're taking that link and that you're putting it in the Word document, and then you're uploading that Word document or a PDF file, whatever it is. Or if it's an actual video file, you'll be able to do that. But we want you to be able to describe what it is that we're looking at. If it's a video to a performance, please make sure that you think of the 250 character limit as you're writing that description, but we want to be able to know what it is that you want us to see and what you want us to get out of seeing that work sample. And then moving on to just the last 2 sections of our submission. Section 6 is just to validate. It's just a simple, button that you're just going to have to check. What this is going to do is let you know if there are any broken links, or if you, uploaded an image that maybe for some reason has been corrupted. You'll be able to see that by clicking that validate button. And then step 7 is just submit. So it'll give you the chance to kind of just look over your application once again before submitting, and just know that as long as you're doing it before the deadline, even if you hit submit today, you should be able to unsubmit if let's say you thought of something else that you wanted to include as a work sample, or if you want to make edits to your letter of interest. Just know that you can do that as long as it's before the deadline, which again, it's on January 31st, 11:59 p.m. Okay, so again, I know it's a weird system. So and I still welcome your questions if you want to go ahead and play around with it starting today. Please just know that I'm always available to help you work through that. But it's not as scary as it seems, I promise. And to kind of just jump a little bit into major times that you should be aware of, dates and times that I want you to know. Obviously, we're having our info webinar today. Like I said, please use the Q&A feature for any questions that you have. If you have any questions following the webinar, we welcome those as well. My goal is to be able to have a FAQ document posted by the end of the week, so that you can reference back to these questions and not have to watch the whole recording, if that's easier for you all as you're working on your letter of interest. But please make sure that you get us any questions that you may have following this webinar as soon as you can, so that we can include it in that document. Again, reminder that January 31st is our deadline for the letters of interest, and we are going to be reviewing all of those submissions, and our goal is to be able to, by February 7th, let the artists that are going to be invited to come back to us with a full proposal know by the February 7th. So again, it's a quick turnaround in terms of when we'll be able to review and let you know if you've been invited back to submit a full proposal. And then we're going to be asking those invited artists to submit a full proposal by the 26th, with us letting you know in about a week's time, again, if you're going to be invited for an interview. And we hope to have those interviews between the 10th to the 12th, with an artist selection completed by the 14th, which allows us to catch up to the Harlem River Artist Program as well. So in a nutshell, that's sort of like the major times and dates again coming up. If something, again, if there's any issues with the software system that it's making you nervous about getting your letter of interest submitted or whatever, please let us know. Please keep these dates in mind, and we'll work with you as much as we can to make sure that your things are submitted on time. We're always open to working with you and supporting you in that way. Okay, so then that takes us to our questions. And then I'm going to ask Christina and Rob to see if they can help me out with some of the questions that have been coming in through the Q&A as we've been presenting.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry, Rob, do you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead. I'm busy typing.
Yeah, of course. So we have been getting some really great questions, and have been able to answer some of those, which you can see on the Q&A. So if anyone needs any clarification on some of these aspects, but just to kind of vocalize one of our questions regarded the other rivers involved in this program. So just to clarify that this project itself will be working on the Lower Passaic, but the Bronx and Harlem Rivers Urban Waters Federal Partnership, which I am ambassador for, is a kind of program with HEP. So both of those programs are running the Artist in Residence, and will be working together to introduce their artists to HEP, to our community organizations, to some of those science organizations like USGS that Liz mentioned. So they'll kind of operate as this cohort under the organization that Liz, Rob, and I all are a part of, but also we are one location of the 6, so there are 5 other locations which you can see listed in the answer who have received funding for this program, and those are all operating a little bit differently. The Delaware Estuary, for example, will have 4 different artists. So there will be about at least 10 artists in total in this cohort that you'll get to like speak with at least once or twice to share a little bit of your experience and to see how you're developing your project. And then I also wanted to speak quickly to, we had a couple of questions about Spanish language as a qualifying factor, and we actually have been discussing this briefly with the Harlem Bronx location as we've been doing our reviews, and it is not a requirement for any applicant to apply for this opportunity, but it will be a consideration among many other considerations for some of those finalists. For instance, if 2 or 3 finalists were all very, very equally qualified in all other areas, but 2 of them or one of them had fluency in Spanish, that might be something that aids that application or that candidate in being successful for this opportunity, but it is not the only thing that will be determining that finalist. We also have some questions about the recording and when that will be available. Yes, it will be available. Liz, do you have the...
Yeah, absolutely. We have to end the webinar, and then Zoom will do its thing. And then once it's downloaded into our Zoom cloud, we'll be able to share the webinar with everybody that registered as soon as possible. We actually will probably also be able to get it up on our webpage as well, just so that you don't have to dig for it in an email. But just give me a little bit more time in terms of when I'll be able to have that posted, but definitely before the end of this week.
So there was a question about, is there a standard for artist fees? My understanding is this is labor project fees for the artist, who could swing largely based on experience. Wondering if there's an hourly range guideline or it's up to the artist's discretion. So we are addressing this. So I think I'm gonna put in the chat what is included. I think Liz talked about this, but the fee would include both the artist's fees as well as the cost of producing the art, including installation and permitting expenses.
Yeah, I'm going back to that page now.
And thank you, Liz. What the balance of the budget is will depend on the individual artist, and it's something that we would be asking the finalists through the LOI phase of this, and then for the selected artist to work out with us in terms of the budget. So we're not, there's no strict rule on that, but we would be working on the budget overall. Having said that, we do recognize that we're asking for time commitment, in particular, both in producing the art, of course, and implementing it and coming up with the idea, but also in the immersion phase where we're anticipating for in the spring of this year, the selected artists would be spending upwards of 20 hours a week, immersing themselves with the work of HEP, the Lower Passaic Urban Waters Federal Partnership, and our arts partners, as well as the community. And so there's some time commitment that we want to recognize and understand that's time we want to pay for in terms of your time. So hopefully that's a good answer. But again, just to summarize, the budget and the artist fee versus other expenses is something we would work out together with the selected artist, and you would be asked to present a draft if you were invited into the finalist phase.
I wanted to clarify, there was a question about advice for independent artists who are considering putting together a collaboration with another independent artist. If you just want to clarify maybe what kind of advice you were looking for, we just to, I guess, clarify on our end, we are considering small teams. I think Liz mentioned that already. But anyone applying as a small team should have a recognized primary or lead artist who will be kind of the lead applicant.
Yeah, thanks, Christina. I'm like realizing that the questions are separated between open and answered. So yes, we definitely encourage if you want to be able to like work with other artists. What we do ask for you to have like that lead artist who's going to be submitting the application. And again, the letter of interest software is going to allow you to give others a chance to also help edit the application itself. But as you saw from my initial slides, there is, going to be an ask for the artist to sit in during these to partner meetings and then our meetings as well as travel to DC. And so as you can imagine, actually the slide is up here, the $3,000 for our travel budget, it's going to be hard to be able to support a whole team of artists just under that small budget. So we are going to, we're not writing it off as a possibility, but we do ask that you have one lead person sort of like be the person who spearheads that application process and who's going to be participating as part of like the lead person in the program. So I'm going to say I answered this live. Is there a specific? Yeah, I was going to say, is there a specific number of invitations you're looking for from the LOI pool? That's great. So we are going to say between, we're going to be asking for about like 8 to 10 folks to be invited back to submit a proposal. Again, we are trying to be as respectful and cognizant of everybody's time as much as possible. So we are going to be asking, those top applicants to be the only ones that have to submit something for us to look at as part of the second phase.
And just adding to that, I think there was a question below. In the end, though, we will be selecting one specific artist or a team of artists, with one lead artist, as Liz mentioned.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Next
Rob,
question I have here is, I have another residency scheduled for the month of July. Would that make it difficult to fulfill any aspects of this residency? If so, will this program be offered in the future? This is a pilot program that was initiated by the Biden administration. We're certainly hopeful that it'll be continued, but we have no control over that. Of course, Lauren and Marcy have great experience and many other efforts that are similar but different. In terms of HAP and the Urban Waters Federal Partnership, this is in terms of that initiative, again, it's a pilot and we don't know if it'll be offered in the future. In terms of the month of July, it's possible. We do have, as Liz mentioned, City of Water Day is, I believe, July 12th this year.
Saturday, July 12th.
And, that's something that'll be taking place in July that we were anticipating this program connecting to in some way. That being said, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's impossible. In particular, if you can make yourself available that day as part of the residency.
Yeah, I think of it to kind of just like add to what Rob just said. I think that this, if you can, do it in summer, if you can sort of like make a case for it in your letter of interest in terms of you being able to manage all of those, similar situations in the past where you've had to like juggle multiple residencies, for example, that's the kind of stuff that we want to see. We want to be able to get a sense from your letter of interest that you have been able to do that. And so if you can make that connection and, that speaks through your letter of interest, I wouldn't say that we would write it off. If you can make it work, we'd be happy to work with you on that. And then I'm also seeing a question here from Amanda, and then everyone, on the team, feel free to jump in. Could you share the schedules or calendars of the partner meetings that are the selected artists will be asked to attend? So there are definitely the 3 major events are listed in the call for artists as well. Those 3 major events include City of Water Day, which happened on Saturday, July 12th, the New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Conference, which happens in November of every year. And then we have the paddling programs that take place in Newark, usually in the month of October in the fall. So other than those 3 events, we still have to figure out what are some of the other major programs that we want the artists to be able to sit in, understanding you can't be everywhere all the time. So we'll be able to like work with the partners a little bit more and sort of like figuring out what those days are. Lauren also mentioned the Newark Arts Festival, which happens, so those are definitely some of the places that we definitely want you to be at. Unfortunately, like a lot of these dates just haven't been set yet for the year, but we'll make sure that, we'll share those with the artists as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I just, I think I just added to, I believe the chat, the information that's in the LOI about the rough kind of quarterly schedule of what we're expecting in terms of the amount of time. But again, going through that discovery, conceptualization, implementation, and documentation and evaluation phase.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so there's a question about if the Hudson River Foundation call was submitted to. Would you say an artist need not submit here? I'm not sure. So that is the call that is the from the Hudson River Foundation. But as Liz and Christina mentioned, we are running 2 different competitions. One is for the Harlem River in the Bronx. And that LOI phase is closed. And then there's this one for the Lower Passaic River. So just making sure if you didn't submit to the Lower Passaic River and you feel you have a connection to Newark, as well as the Bronx, please do submit here as well.
Regarding the question about if it would be difficult to fulfill the duties with a full-time job or part-time job, I think some of that was spoken to a little bit with the other residency. I think we did estimate about a part-time commitment for the at least immersion phase, the first phase. So I wouldn't say that anyone is not qualified for applying to this if they do have a full-time job or a part-time job. It's really about being really considerate of your own capabilities and your own time management and recognizing that there will be a significant part-time commitment at least in the first, the first half of the program. So just keeping that in mind and keeping in mind your own time management.
And just adding to that, obviously there, some of the meetings we'd be asking you to participate in would be sort of during the workday. So your ability to, control your own schedule, might be a consideration as well. I mean, we'd obviously be wanting to work with the artist to make that possible, recognizing that people are, have other responsibilities as well, but, it might be a consideration as well.
And just really quickly, just because I know we're at 4 o'clock already, one of the questions that also came in is our collective isn't a team. It's a known collective that has only worked under a collective name for over 20 years. Can you clarify whether you are recognizing art as collectives? I gotta say, maybe Lauren or Marcy, if there's if you can help in terms of like helping us clarify like the difference between like an
Sure.
artist collective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly fine. And, Lauren, please chime in. I'm perfectly fine with collectives, applying as a collective, because, in terms of compensation, that's something that they would then have to determine amongst the collective. That would not be, our responsibility. But I'm perfectly fine with a collective. Lauren, what are your thoughts?
I think the same exactly, and you would just do what was stated earlier in the seminar, which is have one lead person that the application is being led by and kind of moving through, and that's the name and the contact, that person who checks their email the most, and to have that person be the lead person. And then other than that, yeah, it would be on you to just split up the budget accordingly.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that. Okay. So I was in the middle of just typing another response, but I realized it's 4:02 now. Please note that all of these questions, the last remaining that I'm seeing here, I know one of them was a comment, so maybe just the last two. We'll be sharing that. We'll be including that in a frequently asked questions document, which again will be uploaded in the next few days. So even if as we're signing off now, if you have any questions that come to mind, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to put up the slide with my email on the screen. I mean, if you got here, you should already also have it, but please just make a note of my email. If you have any other questions that you want to see it, a response to it in that document, please send it to me by the end of the day tomorrow so that we can have that document posted as soon as possible. With that being said, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here today. We're excited to be able to look at all the wonderful letters of interest that will be coming in. We're excited to partner with, these wonderful organizations that do so much wonderful work. And we're just excited to be able to do a lot of great stuff for the Lower Passaic River and our communities. So thank you again for joining. We will share a recording to this, as soon as it's ready. And again, feel free to please reach out if you have any other questions. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.